What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another True Game Data video. So today's just going to be a short talking head video. I'm going to talk about the two new perks that are coming to the game, Tempered and Combat Scout. I'm just going to discuss what I think about them and how I think they're going to mix up the meta and builds and things like that, how they fit in with Ghost and the other perks. I think they're kind of interesting. I'll talk about each one individually, but as always, if you guys like the content and you like the website, dropping a comment, a like, and a subscription really helps us out, helps us keep doing this, helps us keep the website up to date, and keep the YouTube channel growing. So we'd always appreciate that. But let's jump into it, and we will talk about the two new perks. All right, so the first new perk we're going to talk about is called Combat Scout. Both these new perks go in the same second perk slot as Ghost, so we're going to have to fight for Ghost with these. We also don't know exactly how they're going to work. We don't have all the details yet, just some basic information. We don't know if any other perks are going to counter the effects of these things, but Combat Scout, this is a tweet from Charlie Intel, you can see here. Basically what it does is anytime the enemy takes damage, they are highlighted in red. We see two different things here. We see this one right here, through the wall, you can see the full outline of the person, and then this one, when they're in the smoke, it's just like a slight outline around the outside of the person. I think this is interesting. Obviously, we already had something kind of like this. It was snapshot grenades. So it's going to be interesting for this to be tied to a perk instead of a snapshot grenade, and we don't know if it's any damage. Like, something I'm thinking about is like stun grenades or flashes. Those both do 1 damage, I think. So are those going to be like ridiculously OP now? Is a stun grenade going to be just like a stun and a snapshot at the same time now? I'm a little worried about that. I think I'd be much more okay with it if it was weapon damage that made people be highlighted. We also need to know how long they're going to be highlighted to know if this is going to be crazy OP or not. I think it will be a good perk, though, and it'll be interesting to see how it fits in with Ghost, as well as Tempered, which we're going to talk about in a second. Overall, it's an interesting idea. It's weird to me that we have snapshots and this. I'm just looking for more information on this, because obviously I can't give you like a full opinion on this, because I don't know exactly how it's going to work yet, but we will see. One of the really important things to think about with this new Combat Scout perk is what's going to counter it. So currently, Battle Hardened is what makes it so. Snapshot grenades, you don't show up on those when people use snapshot grenades. Right now, obviously, no one really uses snapshot grenades, but they actually did get a pretty big buff recently, where it used to be just that you could see them, and it only lasted, I don't know the exact numbers, but it only lasted like a second before or something. And now, when you use a snapshot grenade, your whole team can see that person, and it lasts a little bit longer. So if this perk ends up being the same as snapshot grenades, where your whole team can see it, and it's a pretty large amount of time, I think it could be pretty good, especially if damage from, I mean, we see it in this video, tacticals making people show up. So obviously they're probably still tweaking this and still figuring it out, but it's really important to think about what's going to counter this, because even though both these perks are in the same slot as Ghost, it could potentially strengthen perks outside Ghost to counter this if people really like this new perk. So yes, it's a little disappointing that they're only adding new perks to perk 2 where Ghost goes, but it could potentially change the whole balance of the other perk meta, so perk 1 and perk 3, if those perks counter these in some way. Real quickly, before we talk about Tempered, they did also mention a change coming to High Alert that's going to be some sort of counter for Dead Silence. We don't have any details on that yet, so I can't really talk about it. But I just thought I would mention it if you weren't aware of that. They're going to change High Alert in some way that it's going to counter Dead Silence. Hopefully you can just, hear people with Dead Silence rather than not hear them, but we'll see. That'll also make High Alert much more viable, especially with how much Dead Silence drops in this game right now. That's a good change. We'll see. I'm really glad they're trying to mix up these perks a little bit. But let's get into Tempered, and we'll talk about that. All right, so the next new perk that's coming is called Tempered. Basically, what Tempered does is it makes it so plates will now shield 75 damage rather than just 50. You can still only put 2 on, so you'll still only get a total of 150 health from plates. But it has a few implications, and it would be actually a pretty nice perk to have. I don't know if it's going to be good enough to overtake Ghost and maybe, Combat Scout based on what we know about those. But one of the first things we're going to have to do with Tempered is there's going to have to be a new health value on TrueGameData. At 175, currently we have 100, 150, 200, 250, and the reason we have those specific values is because the way plates work in Warzone is when you put 1 plate on, if you have, say you have like 1.5 plates damage, so you're missing 1 full plate and half of another plate. If you put a plate on, for some reason it doesn't replace the full plate that's been broken completely, it replaces the one that's been damaged a little bit. So that leads to these really common health values, the 100 with no plates, 150 with 1 plate, 200 with 2 plates, and 250 with 3 plates. And what that does is it kind of affects TTKs in a weird way where a certain gun might be able to kill faster at 150 health just because of the way the damage lines up when compared to another gun, and then actually kill slower at a different health value, like 250 health. It might actually kill slower even though it was faster than that same gun at 150. That can happen because of the way shots to kill work. It basically, you calculate the number of shots to kill, and based on that, you can calculate the time to kill. But I've made a little example here of something that kind of helps explain that a little bit. So say we have two different guns. They both have the same fire rate. One does 24 damage, one does 23 damage. If you calculate shots to kill for both of those, you have to do 250 health at least to get a kill. So the shots to kill is 10.42, and you always have to have that 11th bullet to do the full 250 health. So both of these, even though they have different damage values and different shots to kill, in terms of the actual decimal shots to kill, the time to kill is actually identical because they both take 11 shots to kill. This is something that a lot of people get confused on. They think sometimes it's just directly calculated off DPS, but this is why it's really important to look at DPS. So the DPS charts on the website give you the exact damage per second value, not related to shots to kill, just related to the straight up damage output of the gun. And I think people rely on TTKs a little bit too much. I actually think DPS in a lot of cases is better. Any sort of time your enemy has taken any damage, or if you just want to look at an overall measure of the damage output of a gun. So if you're playing duos, trios, quads, and you're team shotting someone, if they take one bullet damage from one of your teammates, at that point, it's better to be looking at DPS, just because you don't know what gun your teammate has. You don't know how that's going to affect TTK. I just think DPS charts in general for duos, trios, and quads are probably more important. The quantized health values of TTKs are great for like solos, because most of the time someone's going to be at one of those values, but most people don't even look at all the different health values. They just look at 250 health and say, oh, well, this gun has a better TTK, so it's better. But there's so much more to it than that. And we're going to have to add this new health value to the site because there's going to be this new quantized health value. So if you want to know the TTK for someone with one plate at 175 health, that's what we'll be able to do here pretty soon. That's going to take me like 5 minutes to add, so that's not a big deal. But another thing that's going to do is going to be really nice for aggro players, because you can very quickly get 75 extra health instead of just 50 extra health, or you can full plate in 67% of the time that it would normally take to get full plate, because you only have to put 2 plates in. So that's going to be really nice for aggro players. The last thing I want to talk about is basically how much health you can carry with you. So right now, if you have 5 plates in your inventory and you're full health, you get 250 extra health from that. So that's basically a full, full default health plus 3 plates. You get 250 extra health you can carry with you with 5 plates. If you have a satchel, you can carry 8 plates, so that gives you 400 extra health. With tempered, your plates go further. You can still carry the same amount. So with 5 plates with tempered, you have 375 health. With 8 plates with tempered, you have 600 health. So you get 125 extra health without a satchel and 200 extra health with a satchel. So you essentially get, with no satchel, that would be equivalent to having 7.5 plates before. And with a satchel, it's equivalent to carrying 12 plates. So that's actually really nice. That'll be a really big benefit for tempered. Overall, I think it is an interesting perk. I think, I don't know if it's going to be good enough to overtake Ghost. This is something that can't really have a counter. Like I talked about how Combat Scout might be countered by different perks. So this one, unfortunately, doesn't really have a counter for it. So it can't really kind of mix up the perk 1 slot and perk 3 slot meta, just because there's no counter to this. It's just simply something that benefits you, and nobody else can do anything about it. But we'll see if Combat Scout kind of mixes up the perk 1 and perk 3 slots. Again, I don't know if I mentioned this yet in this segment, but Tempered is a perk 2 slot, so it's the same slot as Ghost, the same slot as Combat Scout. So we'll see. I'm glad they're working on the perks and trying to, make some more interesting combinations of perks and some different things. But obviously, I'm a little worried that Combat Scout's going to be really good, and it's going to be tied to any damage at all. So like flashes and stuns might be even better now. Anything that does just 1 damage or something, just touches an enemy, if all of a sudden you can shoot the person through the wall as soon as you throw a flash, I mean that's crazy. So we'll see. Obviously, Ghost is super good. There's a reason everyone only uses Ghost right now. But I think these 2 perks will be good, and I think really aggressive players are going to love Tempered just because they can plate so fast. You can plate so fast and get back in combat. That's one of the things I talked about in one of my Rebirth gameplay videos, where I was kind of doing a voiceover and talking about what I was doing and why I was doing it. I talked about plating in that, and how it's so massively important in Warzone to plate immediately when you get out of a fight or when you can hide, because base health is so low in this game that if you don't have plates on, you're losing literally pretty much every fight. So it's super, super important to play it quickly, and this is going to allow aggressive players to play much quickly and make quick rotations on teams. And like if you're playing solo trios or solo quads or something like that, for those kind of guys who play that way, they're going to love this. Again, Ghost is fantastic, so I don't know if this is going to be better, but I think at least they're trying to mix up the perks a little bit and give you some other viable options beside Ghost. So we like to see that. But I just wanted to explain these two new perks, give my thoughts on them. That's pretty much all I had to talk about in this video. I hope you guys found it interesting and informative. Hopefully these perks mix it up a little bit for us and actually work out well. I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. We don't have all the details on them yet. But as always, hope you guys enjoyed the video. I will see you in the next one.